Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. Happy Friday. I am the product manager of LaunchBox, but as people know, one of my passions is to create themes for LaunchBox, create themes for BigBox, something that I love to do. So every Friday, we come onto the stream and we hope that you guys out there, we can all hang out. Anybody that's wanting to build themes, anybody that's wanting to take a look at how themes are being built, and we can just hang out, talk about games, talk about theming, and hopefully this week will be good. It's always a good time when we pop open the stream. How's everybody doing over in the comments so far? Mr. Retroless, hopefully everything's doing good. Supreme Mirla, hopefully I said that right. Hopefully you're doing good today. Crystal Ball, how are you doing today? It's a nice afternoon here in Canada, and it's been Hablo Espanol. All right, that's about as much as I know of Spanish there. So I wanted to do something pretty something that hasn't been done really a lot, but has been around in Big Box for a while. I would say since maybe March or whenever the 11.10 update came out, and I hopefully we can learn something. But of course, if anybody has anything that they want to discuss or talk about in the comments, I'd be happy to answer you. But if not, you know what? Why not jump right in? I mean, because I've been thinking about this one for a while, and it's less about the concept or less about the actual theme and more about what exactly did we get that us theme developers can use that hasn't really been touched on a lot. And really, if anybody remembers what the 11.10 update brought, was essentially the way that people remember it is the wall view update. I guess it's like we got extra wall views, and we've got the ability to create views that had giant wall of images. But that's sort of a little misleading, because yes, we did get some wall views, but the changes themselves weren't actually all about the wall view. It was really what we got was a new flow control, the control that does all the logic for our wheels, and that control became so much more flexible to the point where you could, if you knew what you were doing, you could do so much creative stuff with it. So today, I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of that. Now, the reason probably why it hasn't really been touched on a lot is because you do need to jump into the code to make it happen right now. And I will be working with Dave, who's on a business trip right now, to try to implement that in the next version of the community theme creator. But because of just how flexible and dynamic that this feature is, he will have to put some restrictions, obviously, to try to conform it into some designer, his theme creator designer. But the way that he's describing it to me, the way that it's going to get put into LaunchBox or into the theme creator is it's still going to be pretty powerful, considering what do we think of wheels, right? And let's talk about that. What do we think of when we think of wheels in Big Box? We think maybe clear logos, boxes, an image that can either go from, vertical or horizontal. That's essentially it. We got control over what the selected item does. We got control over what the other items do. That's what we think of. And then we try to fill in the rest of it, right? The thing is that you could do a whole lot more since March. A whole lot more. And while it was in beta, I played around a lot with it, which is basically when I released the the POC theme. It was more, I mean, that's why I call it POC. It was just a proof of concept of saying, well, here's a couple things that you can do. But I had put together maybe 5 or 6 different concepts. Some of them were more out there than others. And only those like 2 views that I had made it into the theme. And it wasn't really designed to be a theme. It was designed to be a theme for other theme creators to take a look at the code. That's why I did it. And I'm going to do something similar. Let me see if I can find what I'm talking about so people can follow here. So this was the POC theme. Right, based off of some really great themes from other places on the net. My goal was to say, is this now possible? Once it was not possible, is it now possible? And the answer was yes. Like, here's some stuff. Now, what you'll actually notice when you actually dive into the code here is that this is not very complicated. This is using a very small fraction of what you actually can do, right? All this is one image with a highlight. And in this one, I actually put a black border, or probably a black rectangle or something, over the ones that are not highlighted. And then I removed it for the one that is selected to make it look like it was much brighter, and gave me the control over how dark I wanted, or how much I wanted the selected item to stand out. And of course, I got a border around the main item. And this one's a little more complicated, but not by much. This one basically just had the same border, the same rectangle, and the only thing I think that's added here is, of course, the video. This is essentially three layers. It's got the screenshot in the background, it's got the logo in the foreground, and then it's got a video that appears in the middle of them when you've selected the item. But I think that what ended up happening was this was maybe a bit misleading. Like, okay, we've got some wall views now, when in fact the control only partially is related to wall views. And so today I'm going to do something that doesn't look like a wall view at all and show you stuff that can be done. Before I get into that, the good news, and if nobody, I don't know if anybody has not been following, you can jump into the forums, and Dave has finally released the community theme creator. Where did he put it? Probably in here, the third-party apps. There it is. He's released his 2.0 version of the community theme creator. So if you haven't noticed, go over to the forums, check it out. You will finally be able to use the version of the community theme creator that I'm using today. In fact, I don't even know if I'm using his most up-to-date one. Yeah, it's probably close enough. But yeah, it's amazing. It's especially if you've used the old one versus the new one. So many things he added, to the point that it took him like a year to develop this version. Kind of crazy. All right. So basically what I'm going to do, because the new cover flow or the new flow control is not in the community theme creator, what I'm actually going to do is do sort of like a hybrid. I'm going to make some parts in the community theme creator so I can take advantage of all of the nice custom controls and stuff that the community theme creator provides us. And then I'm going to publish the theme and then dive into the code and then make the changes so that we can all take a look. So let's jump in here. Oh, I'm gonna butcher your name, but thank you very much. Detachachi. That did not sound right coming out of my mouth, but hopefully you're doing well today. I am excited to get to some theming. This is probably the this is probably the best part of my week. Concentrate on some theming. Oh, what was I going to do? The last thing that I mentioned, because the community theme creator is now out, I have now released every single project file that I've done on this stream from the beginning. So if you go over to the download section on the forums in the big box custom themes, you'll notice that I sat here and released anything that's marked with theme workshop. Retrofresh detailed from last week, illuminate, tilt, neon blue, showcasing the different position of the text list depending on whether you're in the game details view, right? It goes into the middle when you're in game details view and the box moves to the left. But if you're just on the game text view, you've got it in the opposite position. So this theme, you can take a look at how that's accomplished in the project files. And simply every single download is the same. You just hit the download file and you'll see two files. The first one is the actual theme that you'll load into LaunchBox or Big Box, and the second one is the community theme creator files that you will load into the community theme creator. And the way that would work is that you would download it, you would get a file or you get a folder inside of the archive, and you would navigate to my theme projects from the community theme creator folder, and you would just drag and drop the folder into here. And then as long as there's a folder here, it will pick it up and you'll be able to see how things are done from your end. And you can sort of follow along old videos if you want, or just take a look. Every single day, every single time you do it, you learn something new. Every single time I do it, I learn something new. So yeah, that's what I want to say. Every single thing is released now. And moving forward, I'll be able to just release all of the themes as I go along. Okay, let's take a look. So basically what I want to do is create, I don't even know what I want to call it yet, so I'm just going to call it new theme. And I'm going to heavily focus first on a game view. In this sense, I'm only going to focus on just a normal wheel game view, the ones that everybody is probably used to, where traditionally we've got a cover flow that's just sort of clear logos, vertical clear logos. And let's go into this. Let's position this one first. So we got the alphanumeric index right here. Ooh. I'm going to lock this thing to the canvas. That's better. Okay, so now it's positioned. I'm just going to turn it off so it gets out of the way. So here's the wheel. In this sense, right now the wheel just looks like just a transparent area with a box. I'm going to place it, well, let's just place it on the entire area here on the left. And this will make sense later when I get into the code. So basically what I'm saying is within this box, place the wheel. And then later, the community theme creator will make sure that it stays within the box, and then I can play with whatever I want in that box. And how you doing, guys? Leo? Rob? Glad to see you come today. And for anyone that missed it, that joined a bit late, we're going to do something really kind of special. And we're going to create a theme that's never been created before since the feature was released. This theme feature was released in 11.10. And that's the power of the new flow control. And what does that mean? But essentially what it means is that you can now have, since March, as many images. You can add a video, you can add text, you can add static images or bindable images. You can add all this stuff directly into the theme, into the flow control, into the wheel, basically. Have you ever wanted to have text in the wheel with some other elements in there? You can do that. And this is what I'm going to show today. So I'm going to keep the wheel there. And let's just put some basic elements here on the right for now. Nothing special. Maybe like the video. All right, and we're going to keep the aspect ratio. It's always scary to put a video control here. And the reason is, I'm always nervous when I put a video control anywhere, really. And that's because if you think about it as a theme developer, every single platform seems to have a different aspect ratio. Right, so you've got the 4:3s, the old retro console games. You've got the handhelds like the Game Boy Advance. The Game Boy's really skinny. The Game Boy Advance is actually some form of like a 16:10 or something like that. You've got the new 16:9 games, and all that stuff you gotta keep in mind that within this box that you create, different ratios are going to appear inside of there. And so even though it looks like I could probably get away with aligning, let's say, text to the left here, well, the way that I have it is that sometimes the video's left-hand side is going to change. It's going to be different. So I can't really align text to the left-hand side of the video. Dave, aren't you still on your business trip? Or did you come back today? Yeah, so you're still in Nashville. All right. Okay, but so for this purpose, I'm just going to place the video here, and I'll probably place, I don't know, a text scroller down at the bottom showing the game notes. Let's just give it some basic, nice looking text. Make it a bit bigger. Sure. Nothing fancy here. And why not put it in the middle and align it to the center? That's basically all I have to do. I might make this a bit darker. And why not take advantage of a stack? So we'll get the video in there. We'll get the text scroller in there. Oop. So you're leaving today. We'll put a bit of a margin here. A bit more of a margin in there. Okay, so something basic like that. This is the space that's really important here. So let's save that out. And I'm going to publish this theme. "90 minutes. Hopefully you're all packed and ready to go." Okay, so I am going to boot up Big Box here. And we're going to take a look at what I just did. Oh, and Danilo, I've completely missed you popping in, but thanks for joining. You have a question about LaunchBox Theme Edition, not Big Box. Will be some time to ask about that. You can ask anything away. That's what we're here for. I'm only doing what I'm doing because we ran out of questions. So please ask away and I'll do my best to answer it. Well, let's go down to of course, I'm forgetting its new theme. I just want to take a look at what we did here. Switch on over. Okay, so let's go into any one of these guys and see what we got. Okay, so traditionally this is what you'll see, right? A giant giant wheel with logos on it, clear logos. You got the video on that side and some description that I placed there. Actually had this game when I was growing up. It was an annoying game to play. Okay. Now let's make this side, the left-hand side, look better. And what's cool about this is that you can actually keep Big Box open as you're editing it. So I'm going to go into my themes. Find new theme. Let's open up the project files. You can see here inside of the views folder, we've got that wheel game view. And here we are. Okay, so this is essentially what a published theme looks like inside of this. All right, Danilo, so you would like to move some items from one section, and I assume when you're saying section, you mean view. So from one view, I guess let's not call it view. Yeah, one file to another file. So the sidebar section to the main view section, it looks like, or the box contents view. So I actually asked this question fairly recently because I've been trying my hardest to try to learn everything about LaunchBox theming and to just figure out what is and what isn't possible, so that I can teach it to everybody else when, someone like you has a question. And essentially, it depends on the element, is basically what I'm hearing. So a lot of the logic behind the scenes is tied to a particular file. Now you're talking specifically about the search box. The search box, I don't know if it's possible to move it. I can show you where it is because I've been playing around with it. Although I'm assuming you already know where it is in the files, because it sounds like you've been messing around with it as well. So I guess my question to you have you tried to move it and it's giving you errors? Or are you just kind of generally wondering whether that's possible? Because what's funny is that I've been trying to move it exactly like you to like the middle. I haven't given it a try. I've just been thinking about doing that. And hey, Ernesto, hopefully you're doing well today. All right, so here's the default LaunchBox view. And you can see that the LaunchBox theming is a lot more basic in the sense that we have a lot less files to contend with. And each one is mostly self-explanatory. So you're specifically talking about the sidebar, which is where the search bar lives. Yeah, so what I can do is, okay, so here's all of the search stuff, right? It's inside of this friendly grid right here. And I guess it goes down to this friendly grid right there. And then of course, here's all the combo box stuff. Actually, no, that's something different. So it's basically this. Let me just confirm that, yes. Yeah, and your English is fine. It sounds fine. So it's basically everything in here. I'm assuming you tried to take this grid and paste it into the main view. And maybe I can just explain a little bit about why that may not work, because I haven't tried, but it sounds like you've tried that. And that's because there's essentially two sides to theming, two sides to this program, right? There's the front end side, the side that we're dealing with, the XAML, these files. It's like the layout, it's the HTML. We're going to place this element in this spot, and that's why we want it to look like this. We want to color it this way. But then there's the C, I think they use C# in the background, and basically saying, okay, well, now we've placed this element here within this sidebar view. We should find binding search label or whatever. And that is going to, the logic is going to be, you know, I type in something and then this is going to happen. Yeah, Dave, C#. Okay, I was right. And that logic is the stuff we don't have access to, right? And that logic is probably tied to your particular file, in this case, the sidebar view file. So I remove it from this file and I put it into another file. You know, we've moved the layout, so the layout might actually look fine, but we'll get an error saying, well, the stuff inside of this binding that you're trying to find doesn't exist here. And then you'll get that error thrown up, right? And so apparently, and I haven't tried this a whole lot, some stuff might work moving it to a different file. A lot of stuff won't if it's tied to that particular, or it's hard coded to that particular file, in this case the sidebar view. So you might be out of luck. I basically got that answer when I asked the exact same question. Like, there would be a whole lot of reworking of behind the scenes logic to make that happen for us, which, you know, might have some unforeseen side effects or performance related issues than if we didn't have it. Which, to be honest, is something that I've just been learning like these past few months, is like, something might sound super simple to do, and then maybe a plugin can do it just fine. But if we wanted to implement it into the actual LaunchBox program, you run into like all sorts of issues, and then you've got to compromise. Be like, okay, if we do this, then this will happen, and then performance will hit because we've got a cache, and then your RAM mem RAM will go up because now we have to cache all of this new information in there, and it's like, okay, trade-offs. What, like, is it worth it? Does that make sense? Like, and then everyone's like, but it's a simple, I can just, like, it's just a checkbox or something. Just add the checkbox. It's like, to us, that's what it looks like. Like, just allow me to move this. Seems simple enough. Like, it's just a, like a border. It's like, yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. So that's a good question. And really the question that you're asking there, which is like, can you add your own stuff, right? Can you associate new or new logic into existing views? Because you can't add. So you can add new view XAML files, right? You can do that because some XAML files are like, they're different, right? They're like just styling files or stuff like that, and you can associate them, or resource dictionaries, and you can associate those files into views if you want to. But we can't just like create a brand new view, and there shouldn't really be a reason for you to do that. But I think your question really is like, can we do plugins in LaunchBox? And that I'm not actually sure. It's possible. I feel like you can, but I'm not sure if plugins will work in the theming engine. That's a question I'd have to ask. I might be able to get that next week, that answer to that. Try to remember that for you. Do plugins work? LaunchBox theming. Right, and just talking about LaunchBox, like I've been trying to build a theme just so that I can learn it. All this stuff. And I'm doing pretty good. I'm almost done, I think, the theme. Very close, not almost. I'm doing a lot of the polish right now. And yeah, it's actually quite different to big box theming. But once you wrap your head around it, it makes sense on what's going on and all the new controls and stuff that we have access to. And the way things are wrapped around. Anyway. Hopefully that answers your question, even though it's not probably the answer that you wanted. Okay, so back over here, we're in that one file that we generated into BigBox. And I'm just going to type in wheel. Okay, so it is okay, that's the wheel index. Oh, where's the wheel hiding? Okay, I'm going to type in, oh no, here it is. It is up here. So it's one of the first things in here. So you can see the way Dave works here is that he wraps everything in a grid. And that grid is positioned, just to make sense of this. So he wraps everything in a grid, gives the grid the name. And then you can see here that he uses converter to place the item so that it works on other screen types. And then down here, he's essentially positioning the item using a translate transform X and Y coordinates. All right, so in this case, it begins at 0 based off of his converter of 2560, which is my width of my screen, and then 0 Y coordinate based off of my height of my screen. And we place that down here, all wrapped in this nice big grid. The cover flow itself, or the wheel, the flow control, is just this line. It's essentially one line that's been, this line. It's essentially one line that has been spaced out into 3 lines. The other part of this is this right here. So this is just basically the same as this. and nothing's happening in here. It's like no angle, scaling, just make it, the one scale. We can play around with this, the angle X and Y. Okay, angle X and Y. So that's interesting. Oh, that's the skew transform. Yeah. All right, so really, we don't want to touch any of this stuff. We just want to touch this. Right? This is the old flow control, and if you look inside of it, you can see that it's using this cover factory, which is the old style of what we want. And we got a whole bunch of properties that they've given to us that we can touch on. In this case, which image do we want to see in there? So we got one image type, and we can change this to about 5 or I think it's 5, maybe 6 different image types, boxes, backgrounds, screenshots, stuff like that. Mostly everybody sticks with clear logos or boxes. So you'll see those the most often. And you've got like, how much curve do you want to see on the wheel? How many items, visible count, do you want to see created or drawn on the screen in the wheel? Like all the stuff, the position. So like the position of the actual wheel, the position of, or the position of the camera in relation to the wheel, the position of the item, the selected item, the actual items in relation to the camera, and then the position of the selected item in relation to the camera, how much space we should draw in between the items. Rotation amount is how much angle should the items be in there. But there's like, if I wanted to have, okay, I want that, but I also want to put the title in the cover flow, you can't do that with this. Right? It's very restricted. Or I want 2 images, you can't do that. So this has all been replaced, and you can actually go delve into the themes folder, and we've got documentation that's mapped out most of this. Christian was, oh, okay. Let me move this stuff over. Where the heck is it now? All right, it's lost on my screen. Oh, there it is. Okay, there we go. And let me go back to this chat for you, Danilo. You think the main view has kind of all other views integrated? I mean, you can place the other views inside of it. So you could create a new view. You could probably place it somewhere in the main view. Probably that doesn't make sense. So yeah, before I read your next question, you could do that, right? You can create more views. You could try to associate it into the main view. And yes, you're right. The main view is sort of like the culmination of all the other views placed inside of this main view. Right? It's like the ultimate layout of where things are. But you'll basically just be getting a view of stuff that has no logic behind it. So if you needed to do anything where it needed to find a resource in LaunchBox, it would, or do something new, you probably won't be able to do that. If that makes sense. So you could do that, or you could just place the items into the main view. Right? You could have it as a separate view, or you just dump it into the main view and you'll get the same results, if that makes sense. Like some people like to separate things into views, but it's not actually needed. You'd want to use that more sparingly, I think. Okay, second question. Another question is, how can I do the platform category to be in uppercase? So that specifically requires a converter, which means it will require either a plugin, if that's possible, or will require us to create the plugin. Although we've talked about adding that into LaunchBox and BigBox so that you can utilize it in LaunchBox themes. It should be a simple converter for us to create. We would just have to find time to create it for you and everybody that wants it, like a capitalization plugin. Because you're right, I've checked in the past, there's lots of different ways that you can do this whole uppercase thing. but none of them work in this particular version of like .NET, WPF, XAML stuff, right? You probably found some other properties and stuff that would only work in, let's say, older versions or newer versions or different versions. Like a lot of times you get UWP results on Google, which is a completely different XAML code apparently. But yeah, like we basically would just take a converter. And hey, Ray Gameplay, hope you're doing well today. Let's jump into this. Let's take a look. So what's great is that CBeat really did a good job of documenting the new stuff. If you wanted to read it all, I'm not going to read it all, but I'm just going to talk about how it's laid out here so that you can read it. So here's the legacy flow control that I basically just went through, and he maps it out here. He gives an example. So this might not have everything in it. I haven't actually looked over it. And then he takes each property, which are these things: image type, curve amount, and then he tries to go into detail about what is here, what is possible, what it means. Here's curve amount, rotation amount. So you can go and you can read each one, what they mean, what they do. And this would be, if you're a theme creator, you should definitely read this stuff and at least have an understanding of what each one does. But of course, it's all in the document for reference. And then below this, oh, he put custom image type in it. That's interesting. Okay, so that's for the new, that's something that I asked for before, that this is actually built into the theme creator. All right, so the different cover factories, this is all legacy stuff that I showed you. And then here we go. Flow control, but the heavily updated version from 11.10. Oh, and Full Metal Raven, what I'm trying to do here is dispel the notion that what we got in 11.10 is just a wall view. I mean, that was the misconception, that we got some wall views and like the new control is only good for wall view. What I'm going to show here is that it really has very little to do with wall view, what we got. Yes, we can do wall views now, but the way that it was implemented just basically breeds creativity and flexibility, and no one has taken advantage of it yet. So I'm going to give you guys an example of what you can do here. And eventually, all of this stuff will make it into the theme creator. I'll be working with Dave if you're still around, and we'll hopefully be able to get all this new stuff in there in some way that makes sense to designers. And Danilo, yes, it would make sense to have documentation for LaunchBox, and that's been lacking, right? And I couldn't create it because I had no idea how to theme LaunchBox. And we've talked about different ways that we can create that, right? That documentation will take time to create, and I can sit there and I can spend the week or 2 weeks to create it and put it out, do revisions of it, drafts and stuff, that sort of thing. We've talked about ways that we could possibly do this automatically, so that when code gets added, it would just get populated onto a page somewhere where people can view it. And of course, that would take time to just create that automated process and that sort of thing. And this documentation was most, and to answer your last question, this documentation was last updated, actually probably last month. We might have put something in it. But yeah, this documentation, was created a very long time ago and has been slowly updated over the years. So last month, I think we added something to this document to showcase some of the new stuff that we added. And like all of this stuff was added in March or April or something like that to showcase this stuff that has been added. And let's take a look. So Ray gameplay. LaunchBox could have an option to pause image downloads. Yeah, I mean, we could. We do have the option of, like, you can now do other things while LaunchBox is downloading box art. And I think it's smart enough to try to, like, if you're doing something, like if you're scrolling or if you're making changes in LaunchBox, it will downgrade your downloads to something, to some sort of like less resource heavy version of it, so to allow you the ability to do what you want to do. If you close LaunchBox and reopen it later, or if you launch a game while you're downloading, it will remember its position of what items it's on and then continue to download later, right? But then don't forget that I know a lot of people, what happened when we added the whole, you can queue up lots of platforms, is that people are sitting there and adding all of their platforms and then making it so you have maybe 100,000, 120,000 items in your queue downloading. And it's like, well, think about that. Let's just do the math. Let's say it's 100,000 items. And each item, let's say in general, takes 1 second to download. And that means, and that's not even true, like it probably takes longer than a second every now and then, especially from Emmy movies. You can do the simple math, right? 100,000, divide that by 60, that's like 1 per second, that's 100,000 seconds. Divide that by 60, that's 1,666 minutes. And you divide that by 60 again, and now it would take you 27.7 hours to download 100,000 images if each one took 1 second to download. And so then you just keep adding more and more, and then you run into the problem that we have with Emmy movies that wasn't as apparent before because you couldn't do this before, and that's that their API is not that robust, right? We have to use an API into their system, and that API authenticates yourself and that like once, and then allows you to download stuff. But if it will time out within 15 minutes or something like that. Let's say someone's downloading so many items, that 15-minute period will expire before they even get to downloading something from Emmy movies, which ended up causing this 404 error. And then like we put in some sort of fixes for that, and it didn't 100%. We're basically putting a band-aid around an API that just wasn't designed for this level of downloading. Anyway. And Rob, you're saying you just want to plug in for videos? Videos? So what do you mean by videos? Okay, so hold on. You just want to plug in for videos and scrolling text for marquees support. I want to get to that at some point, because I'm pretty sure you can already do marquees, but I wouldn't mind hearing like scrolling text, but I wouldn't mind hearing what you want to see as a video in your marquee. Are you wanting to see video snaps in your marquee? Yeah, and then there's like two or maybe 3 different ways that you can accomplish scrolling marquee text. And some of them don't require plugins, because there's actually one way that you could do it that is built right into LaunchBox and Big Box. And hey, Retro. Hopefully I'm not talking too fast for you, Ray. You're using Google Translator to talk to me. This is something comes out wrong. You ask forgiveness, no problem. We're all laid back. It's a Friday. You don't have to worry. So yeah, there's issues with videos in Marquee, and the reason why you did not see any evidence of Marquee support inside of the community poll is because we already agreed behind the scenes that we want to work on it, and anything that we wanting to work on personally, we did not add to the community poll because we're going to do it anyway. So there was a little misconception that the community poll represents everything we're going to be accomplishing over the next, let's say, 6 months or 7 months or a year, which is what happened with the last poll. And we purposefully made this poll in a way that made it so we don't have to do that. We need to be able to balance better the items from the community poll versus what's healthy for the program, things that we need to add that might not necessarily be the stuff that the people on our forums were required. And if you really think about it, let's say if you did the math and you added up how many people we get on the forums per day versus how many people are opening and using LaunchBox every day, we might be at like a 1 to 3% of our population on the forums. So we're really talking about the 1 to 3% of the population on the forums that voted ended up, well, like we might get more that are voting on the community poll. We might get like 5% of our population that actually bothered to come and vote. How much should we spend on that developing the program? Oh, I missed your question. I'm sorry, Full Metal Raven. Can you create a wall view with several wheels? Okay, so that's an interesting question. And I guess it depends on what you mean by several wheels. Let me read the bottom here. Multiple wheels in the wall view. I would like to sort your games based on their genres. Okay, so I see what you mean. So you don't actually mean multiple wheels per se, but different filter types. And if you really think about it, let's just think about, let's use that as an example, genres. So let's say we're sorting by genres. Genres aren't really a sorting category, right? They're more, let's call it more like grouping. We can group by genres, but the sorting would still probably be alphanumeric. Would you agree with that? Like you wouldn't go to an adventure genre and then like how would that be sorted? Like you would still expect like games with number titles to come first, and then you would still expect like A, B, C, D, E, F, like that sort of thing. So you'd still want it to be sorted that way, but you want to be able to group by different things like genres or year or something. And you wouldn't necessarily need multiple wheels for that. So I'm still wondering, like, how are you envisioning the multiple wheels thing? To me, multiple wheels means like there's more than one wheel happening at the same time. You could, I guess, mean pagination, something called pagination, which is essentially, I think that's what you mean, to be honest. Like you want, instead of just having one wheel that then you can sort by different things, you want us to be able to paginate into multiple different wheels, and that would require probably an entire change in the logic. We would have to create new views to just support that logic, if that makes sense. To say, okay, let's let's display things like this. Let's logically place items here and there. You know, you're talking about like the Netflix look. And that's right. And there's, we instantly go to our minds and we try to look, okay, I've seen it over here. Like I've seen it on Netflix, or I've seen it on Plex, or I've seen it somewhere. How can we accomplish that? And they always do it by rows. Like not necessarily have to do it by rows, but they will paginate different things into different rows, and then each row will have the different scroll. So who decides what's going to be in each of these categories, and how would someone decide that? Right? Would we have to do it? Would the theme creator decide that? Would we put controls for a user to decide what goes into each row? How many rows? How about if you wanted like 100 different rows? Who decides what's on those 100 rows? Do we make it automatic? Do we just automatically generate them based on some sort of like platform list? A lot of questions would have to go into that, but it's doable. We would have to create new views for that. And we've talked about that in the past. But it would, like, imagine the planning that would go involved in that to figure out what is the scope, like how much scope do we want to include into that decision? How much of a performance hit would happen if we did that? Like all sorts of things would have to kind of just be discussed. Like imagine we'll take that one topic and then we'll discuss it for like 4 hours. You know, and during that 4 hours, we might come to a decision, but during those 4 hours, we did not develop LaunchBox. So yeah, we do get together once a week, and we try to steer us in the right direction for questions like that. Like we'll ask that question and we'll weigh the pros and cons, and then we'll talk about dev time versus how many people will use it versus like the pros and cons of all that stuff, right? And then we'll try to logically think, well, how would that even work? Well, and then we might think of 3 or 4 different scenarios. It could work like this, or it could work like that, or it could work like that. You know, which one's better and which one's worse. And so it sounds great. Like I love that idea. Obviously, it's popular in places like Netflix that made it popular, and Plex and that sort of thing. And let's see, Ernesto, maybe let the user pick. Yeah, so maybe it should be like, so should it be like a like a question like that would be, okay, do we add then a new section just specific for this pagination stuff for users to go through? Do we add that in Big Box, or would that be a pain to do with a controller? Do we add that with LaunchBox, or do we do something simpler and maybe we just do it by a user's platform playlist? You know, we already have that already exists. So maybe it's like the pagination will take everything within a particular platform and then paginate it all for the user. And then the user would have to go back and then decide what they want to see based off of that, maybe. Right? Because we already have the automated genre playlist that you can create per platform, and then you can create your own platforms and that sort of, like, you know, different options. And then if we do that, ultimately, I think theme developers would want control over it. So how do we do that? Anyway, great question. Yeah, I love talking about those things. Let's look at this heavily updated flow control in 10.11.10. Right, and then he goes into all of the different properties that can be put into this flow control. But essentially, it comes down to that we have a brand new camera that does different things now. The camera itself, he's done it in a way that you don't have to use it, right? It's a separate piece of code called the orthographic camera, and you can look up other types of cameras and replace it with them if you wanted to do that. Each one has a particular This one I think is specifically a 3D type of camera that has like the direction and near plane distances and stuff that you can play around with. That's not necessarily clear on what each one does. Okay, so then what's great here is that we've got these columns, so we can now decide, okay, we want this many columns, or we want this many rows, or we want this is great, endless. If you make it endless, it'll basically act exactly like our regular wheel. It'll just be a full wheel from front to back and repeat itself, instead of it being a wall view or act like a wall view. By default, this cover flow will do like wall view rows. All right, and I'm not going to go through everything, but this is the last thing I'll go through. The data template. This is where all the power lies. Like, all the power. This space right here is where you're going to get the power. Essentially, you could copy all of this and then paste it. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I'll tell you why in a second. And then fill in something in here. You can basically just play around in here. That's what we're going to do today. Let's give it a shot. What I'd recommend is to go into the default theme. And let's just grab one of the flow controls from a wall view. That'll give us a good starting point. Here's an extremely easy one. Let me do wall view 3. And you can see that we're going to have the exact same stuff in there. Cover flow, flow control. And then that goes all the way to down here. So we're going to take all of this and we're going to paste this stuff. Thank you very much. And we're going to replace our cover flow with that. Look at that. All right, now we've basically just replaced it, but this grid that Dave has provided us with the theme creator will basically says everything inside of this grid, keep it in the right position that we've placed inside of the theme creator. And because I did this in the text, I still have Big Box open. Oh, and look at that, we broke it. Why did we break it? All right, let's take a look. We broke it probably because it needs, because I added 2 of those. Okay, that should be better now. Let's go in. Look at that. So I basically copied and pasted what I had. And now you're seeing that it's just displaying the wall view in the same spot that I wanted it to go. Now, here's the thing that everyone will have to remember. And you can sort of see the issue I have here. The view itself takes care of the logic of how the navigation buttons work. So if you think about it, in this view, it's expecting that left and right will navigate the wheel because of the cover flow property setting, and that up and down will be the alphanumeric index. So even though we have a wall view here, the logic tied to this view for navigation direction is not quite going to work properly. All right, so that's why you still want to use the wall view file if you're building a wall view. And we're going to change this up. Okay, so now that we know what we're working with here, let's try to change this up to make it a little better here. Okay, so everything inside of this flow context is what we are seeing. Let's break this down. We've got one border. That border has a thickness of 30, which we're noticing is the selected item's white. When you have money, you'll buy big box. Oh, Ray. Yeah, I can't wait to get you into this stuff. So we've got basically one border. Inside of this border, we've got this section, which is basically saying, well, how is this border going to be styled? And we say, well, we're going to make the border color transparent, and we're going to make the opacity of everything in that border 20%, 0.2 out of 1. And then we're going to say, okay, but here's where the triggers come in. If the item is selected, make the border brush white instead of transparent. And if the row is selected, make the opacity of that row 100% or 1. So that's basically what we're seeing, right? Everything not in that row will be 20% opacity. Everything in that row is going to be 100% opacity. Everything, the border is going to be transparent in every item other than the item that's selected. That's what the triggers do for us. All right, then you've placed a grid inside of the item or inside of this border. So border and then a grid. And inside of this grid, he's basically saying, hi, I want you to make this cover flow image, one of the new elements that we have, this flow image. And I want that flow image to be box front. Actually, yeah, he called it box front, gave it a name. And then he wants the image type of this flow image to be boxes. And this is something that we've got that 5 or 6 different items that you can place in there, which are listed out in that document. And so this is sort of a resource. It's just saying, like, I want a flow image to look like this with boxes, and I'll tell you where to put it later. And later means right here. So this is the column and definition items. So this is just saying, this is like Excel spreadsheet. I want to have one column that's width of 3 versus another column next to it with a width of 1. All aspect ratioed out, basically. So a 3:1 aspect ratio between them. And then I want only one row and make it as tall as whatever the item is inside of it. And that's why you'll see, like, if it doesn't know what size it is yet, if the box hasn't appeared yet, that's when you'll just sort of see a blank square, because it doesn't know what size it is yet. Okay, so then he uses this content control to call that box front, right? This is all related to this key. So he gave this a name, box front. I could rename this actually to anything I want. The boxes are cool. And then I would basically say, okay, I need to bring the resource that I called the boxes are cool. The name doesn't matter in this sense. It's whatever you type in there. And then the content that within the boxes are cool is going to be a flow image that is going to be the image type of boxes. So he's saying, like, place this content control in both of these columns. So he's spanning the 2 columns. And by not indicating to anyone which column to start in or which row to start in, he's basically saying the default is just start in column 0, start in row 0. So it's basically the exact same if I wrote grid row 0, grid column 0. that's basically saying the same thing as nothing. I wouldn't have to have that. And a quick reminder, that's how grids and columns work. They always start where the first row or first column is a 0, and then it counts up from there. And then he made a canvas on top of this box and basically said, inside of this canvas, so we've got a style, but inside of this canvas, place this one item. Another flow badge, actually a new item element called flow badge, which will take one of the items of our badges, in this case, badge name. He's taking the favorite badge and he's placed it inside of the canvas in the top right. And he put a static height of 80. 80 pixels high, 80 pixels wide. I believe they're pixels. And then some styles. Basically, this is a trigger saying only make this heart visible if in fact there is a box drawn on the screen. If that makes sense. And what that means is that, see the little heart next to that WrestleMania box? That will only be there once the box loads. That's the logic that he put in there. Okay, we don't want any of that, I'm pretty sure. So let's get rid of them. Now that we know what is there, let's get rid of everything but the border. How about that? And for now, I'm just going to comment everything out. So still there if I need it. And so instead, what I'll do is I'm going to style this border a bit, right? I don't want thickness, but I do want a background, and I want that background to maybe be something. Let's give it a color. Let's just give it white. But the first two numbers of a color in hexadecimal, whatever we want to call it, this is also HTML coloring. The first two are the alpha opacity. Let's call it opacity. And so it goes from 0 to FF, 00 to FF, 00 meaning 0%, FF meaning 100%. And we're gonna do maybe 90. Somewhere like, I don't know what 90 is, 55% or something like that. All right, so basically I have nothing but a border that I'm drawing on every single item. And then no items so far. I wonder if I would break. I feel like I would break Big Box because I got nothing actually written there. Okay, basically there's just nothing. Because it doesn't know. It's a border that's probably 0 by 0. Alright, so let's put something inside of it. Why don't we put a box in there? So in this case, I'm going to put cover flow image, and with an image type of boxes. Well, so far so good, but inside of that, maybe I'll do a stack panel orientation of horizontal. So stack panel will stack any item that I put in here next to each other horizontally, because that's what I oriented it. Now, to make it do what I want to do, I'm going to have to change some of the flow control properties here. So see columns and rows. Well, we don't want any of that stuff, but we do want something called the endless. Let's see what happens if that's all I have. Oh, you see that? It's all, all like, I don't know what you want me to do. Okay, so row. We want columns. We want one column. Let's see what happens now. Oh, look, we've got the one column. Well, so far so good. Let's take a look at some of these. Navigation columns. This property sets the number of columns you must navigate away from either end of the flow control before the flow control items being selected is forced to the center. Okay, so these are used for the wall views. The rows is the number of rows that you want to be drawn. The default value is 0. I didn't set a cover factory, right? Yeah. So far, so good. Actually, with this border, I might want to give it a height of, let's say, 50. Well, let's do 100, and then a width of something much larger, like 1,000. Let's see what I got. Well, it's there. That's kind of funny. Okay, so what are we seeing there? We're seeing that the camera's really far away and that the item spacing is probably really far away from each other. So there's two properties that control that. The first one is this width. It's called width, but it's basically like how close the camera is going to be. So let's first adjust this. And if I remember correctly, it's been since March since I had to play around with this. A lower number means I'm going to get closer. Maybe I got too close. let's do 11 and see what happens. Nothing. Wait, did I change anything else? I don't think I changed anything else. Okay, so let's go back to 17, see what I got. Oh, there it is. Let's go up to 20, see what I got. Wonder if it's just like too far now, or if it's waiting to draw. All right, let's stay in this whole range of items, of numbers around 15. Oops. Still nothing. There they are. Okay, so they are getting further away. So let me bring it up to 17. And of course, the second property that we want is this one, item spacing. So we basically want to say, well, how far away are these going to be spaced out between X and Y coordinates? So I'm not entirely sure what I want to do here yet, but we might have to go into the negatives, I'm guessing. Maybe not. Okay, one thing I might have to do is this. As I'm playing and messing around with the theme files. Oh, and I almost feel like I'm missing some properties here that are probably required. Let's take a look. So I do have a flow image. I do have the styles that I want. Let's bring the styles out of this. And we'll place them here. So the styles are basically saying the colors that we want the stuff. This one in the sense, like if it's... Oop. Yeah, it's probably the distance. And hey, Obsidian, hopefully you're doing well today. So property background, I don't know what I'm doing here. There we go. And the background is, of course, I'm wanting it to be, I don't know, let's just do white for now. And we don't need a row selected, or do we? That's redundant in our scenario. All right, so far so good. Got a whole bunch of video properties for the video flow control that you can make. Oh, and this is the scrollable text. So, Rob, if you're wanting to use scrollable text, there is one that Big Box has one built right in. So I might have to tell it. If I'm not mistaken. Let's see, endless. Okay, columns. I've got columns and rows. I added one column and I want 0 rows. No, sorry, 1 row. That would probably help. Oh no, it says 0 rows. That would make more sense, wouldn't it? With an endless of being true. Item spacing. Okay. Oh, look at that. We've got a tiny little wheel. I'm pretty sure. And happy Friday, Obsidian. Hopefully you're coming in the middle of this. We're playing around with the new wheel types. And as I keep changing things in the code, something that you have to realize as a theme developer is that we're adjusting the code here completely. So far, so good. Of course, it's really tiny, isn't it? How do we make it closer? I was doing it before with the width. The direction tells us if we want to off-center it. Same with the position. So far, I don't think we do. I don't think this changes anything, but let's find out. Yeah, doesn't really, does it? And that it's the width. So let's really go crazy and put it down, see if we can get something to appear. Oops. And we can finally play around with it. Oh, look at that. We're getting closer. All right, let's get even closer. So yeah, so the margin, and I don't know if I oh, I see. Okay. That's why it's not working. So with the border, you do have to set the items that you want to trigger differently in this area here. Property background. And then we'll set up, I don't even remember what I set up, but I think it was 90. Okay. Yeah, so item spacing, we'll play with that next once we have the correct width that we want here. Hey. Look at that. It is, I was right. Look how far apart they are. You can't even see them yet. And I completely did not do this height and width properly. So let's double the height. And I wonder if it'll just take it for me. There you go. Look at that. We're getting there. Of course, I've got this opacity, which I don't really want to have there. There we go. I can make that even bigger. Let's do 300. Okay, now we're getting to a point where it's probably too big if we're wanting an actual list. So let me bring that down to 250. It's all trial and error here. Okay, look at that. So far so good. I like that. I like that. I do like that a lot. And hey, Stefan, or is it Steven? Hello from the UK. So it must be the evening for you there, isn't it? I think you're 5 hours ahead of me, and it's like 3 p.m. here. All right, Rob, you're gonna rest me on the forums. Yeah, do that, and then we can work our way through that section. Okay. All right, we're getting somewhere. We're now into item spacing territory. So we basically have to figure out, you can see how far apart they are, yet we're already in the negative. And I'm pretty sure we just have to keep going down in the negative. So let's do -3, although And I might end up doing too much. Okay, no, look at that. And you can see that my trigger is working in the sense that the item selected will always be brighter than the other. The background will be actual white, although it's blinding white a little bit here. Oh, that's better. Whoa, look at that. Okay, -4. Oh. Did I go too far into the minuses? That was odd. -8. Am I going backwards now? Maybe. Okay, let's go back to -3. We were getting somewhere with -3. -3.5. Okay. Ugh, all these minuses and stuff give me dizziness. Let's see what a +5 will do. Ooh, they're really far apart now. Okay. -3. Pretty sure that's where we were, right? When we saw both of them? Yeah. Okay. But is this our limit? (3.2) 3.3? Are they getting further apart? Yeah, after 3. Okay, how about 2.5? Oh, look at that. We did it. Kind of. Although, if I want space in between them, do I just put like a 5.2? Maybe 2.5 is exactly... Yeah, there you go. Look at that. Little space between them. Okay, so now that we have what we want to see here. Oh, look at that go. I wonder if anybody here have a Atari Jaguar when they came out. I'm always curious. I remember when that system was going to come out, and it was, and the way like magazines and stuff and the media was talking about it as being like the next big thing. But I wonder what those people felt when they finally, like those people that bought into the hype and then they bought one, and like how that experience was for them. The bits were a big deal back then, right? Just like more bits. What was the last system you remember where they were marketing it based off of bits? Okay, so I'm just going to do something a little less blinding. We'll do... Let's say I wanted a linear gradient on this. I would have to do this. Setter value linear gradient brush. I think. And this is where I'm going to have to call up a couple things here. Oop. For me to remember. To me, I think the last system I remember where they're actually talking about bits was the Dreamcast, I believe, right? Because that one they were saying had 128 bits. Like, we're better than the 64 by double. Which, of course, my friends that had it at the time were very eager to remind me of. Okay, so as I brush up here, so a linear gradient does need a start point and an end point. We're just going to do 0, 1, 0, 0. And then we'll do endpoint of, and these are just XY coordinates. So this would be 0, 1. So I guess that means top to bottom. I want 2 colors. So the first color, I want it to be, let's say, dark white. So we'll go down to 10% or 10%. We'll go down to 10 white. And this color starts at the 0, 0 mark. Oops. And that. Then we'll do a second color. And this one will be a bit brighter, maybe at 60. So this is going to look gray, I guess. That offset does not look right, does it? Oh, I see why. 1, 0. So starting at 0, going to 1. Okay. No, I broke it. Okay. I did not close my bracket. All right. Getting to something a little better. I'll bring this down even further to 10. Well, so far so good. Like, we've got a wheel going. Something that we can do. Let me see if I can do this. So one thing that I think a lot of people don't like is when you have different size boxes, even though they should be the same. Actually, there's no good way to do that, unfortunately. Oh, we'll leave it like that for now. Okay, so what do we exactly have? We got the border, we've got inside the cover flow, but then we've got our stack panel, and inside of the stack panel is going to determine what's inside of that border. And so far we put boxes in there, but there's other stuff that we can put in there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another stack panel, but this time make it vertical. I'm going to put some information into the stack panel. And what kind of information are we going to put in there? I don't know. You guys tell me. What information? I'm going to start with 1. Right, and this stack panel, I want to put a margin so that there's a little bit of separation in there. Let's do 20 on the top, 20 on the bottom, and 20 on the other side. Okay, so what did I do here? I basically put a text block. Should end that. I basically put a text block, and inside of that text block, let me zoom in for you guys. Inside of that text block, I set a font family, and I'm basically putting some text. And what this is saying is all of this stuff, this ancestor type, it's saying reach outside of the flow control and find me a path that's data context title. So look for the title of something outside of this cover flow. Well, let's see if that worked. It did, but you can't see it because it's black. Black on black. So let's fix that. So we're gonna fix that a little bit by giving it a font size of, let's give it 50, and then a foreground color of something more white. Let's do not exactly white, but something close. E, F. Okay, look at that. So now I'm able to provide the title of the item along with the box art. All right, so far so good. And let's not make that so large. That's a bit better. What other information would you want to know right away? Right? And we can use this to determine the different kinds of information that we're allowed to have, right? Because this has a whole lot of stuff like max players. Is that even in here? Here, max controllers, right? We could take this path and say, okay, why don't we do that? So I'm going to make a copy of this, but instead of the title, we're going to put max controllers right here instead. And we're going to change this up. We're going to say, I want this to be 20 size, and maybe I'll just fade this out to about 90. Let's see what we got. We got nothing. That's disappointing. Let's put something else in there. It might just be a binding that doesn't exist right now. Oh, I know why. This is active platforms. No wonder. We're in the wrong section. Well, there's something that I can write down for later. Max players binding in the documentation. Okay, let's look for play mode. There it is. Just to prove that this actually does work when you're using a game binding. There you go. Game bindings work. Something else that I might want to consider, you don't necessarily see it at the moment, but if the title gets too long, we got to tell it, what do I want it to do? I don't know if any of these games have really long titles. There might be a couple of them here. Let's think about this. Maybe, yeah, right here. So it says Tiny Toon Adventures 2 Trouble in Wacky Land. Oh, that's the full title. There it is. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Heroes of the... Do I want it to wrap? Do I want it to do that ellipsis thing? Let's start with the ellipsis thing and see what that looks like. So here I'm going to say text trimming. That's what it's called, text trimming. And we've got two options, word or character ellipsis. We'll do character. Let's see what that looks like. It looks like nothing. No, now you can kind of see that I'm on a a test build. There we go. Oh, the character ellipsis didn't do anything. Maybe it thinks that it's too long. And we're not seeing the full thing. That's probably what's happening. Because I did set the border to a specific height, but the stack panel might be something different. Let's put some stretches in here. And instead of this, let's do word. Oh, I was right. All right, the text is just gone. All right, so let's just keep going as I keep making changes to the code here. I wonder what would happen if I did word wrap. Wrap, text wrapping. Let's do wrap with overflow. What do you got for me? Let's check out some beat 'em ups. Actually, we're gonna have to check out the role-playing games, I believe. It's not doing it at all. I probably need it to be inside of a different thing or something, like a grid. But I mean, I'm dealing with details here at this point. And hey Antonio, from Zurich here. Hope you're doing well today. Because we're dealing with details, let's move on to something more substantial here. Because we might want a couple different things here. So we'll do a stack panel that's horizontally aligned. And we might want to say that inside of here, we want play mode. Maybe we want the platform that it's part of. Maybe we're inside of a specific playlist, or looking at doing a search and want to know the different platforms. I hope it's just platform. And you can see this mostly, let's say if I went into one of my playlists and I say, okay, Mario, all the different Mario games. And you can definitely see the different size boxes at this point. And that platform was definitely not the name of that binding. And so oh, I'm going to have to go through all this, aren't I? All right, so let me active platform. Got to get above that, I think, is the game stuff. Okay, game stuff. Active game developer notes, active game platform. So maybe it's game platform. Let's try that. I might break it at this point. Let's find out. Did I break it? No. Still good. Didn't work. All right, I'll have to ask about that later. Maybe we want the publisher. Actually, let's do two things. You can see title, version, series, play mode, region, play count, star rating, source, sort, title, release year. Oh, we actually have a release year. I keep forgetting that we have a release year. Oop. And let's see what you're asking. They need to make an Xbox 360 game room with unlockables. Unlockables. What kind of unlockables? Online leaderboards. Online leaderboards for what? For like achievements? Maybe it's not the binding. Maybe I'm just doing something and I'm not even realizing what I'm doing here. Let's do a whole bunch, see what they look like. So you want a virtual room that you can place virtual items based off of the achievements that you get based off of, I guess, retro achievements or something like that, or the achievements from Steam. said I would do a lot of stuff. Now let me double check a couple of them. So like portable, broken. Okay, that's the end of it. Let's do publisher. I believe release year doesn't work, does it? Release date? Actually, let me make a whole bunch of these. Then we'll know which ones work. Publisher, developer, release date. That's all the major ones, I would say. Star rating. What does that look like? Probably a really, really long string. Okay. So we do have the developer, we do have the publisher, we do have the release date. And I can change the release date to showcase the year. Oh, I see. So you use the Xbox 360 Game Room, which was a game that had Atari games in there. And you can customize your little virtual room. Which is kind of cool. Okay, so we've got a number of things that we can put here if we want to. And you can see it even left a space where I think release year should have gone. And it is basically showing nothing. There we go. Okay. Let's see if it does that with platform. This might just be, I mean, it can't find the platform binding. It might be called something else. I don't even know it. There it is. All right. That was interesting. Maybe I just spelled platform wrong. Okay, so let's put what we want inside of here. So I'm putting platform. Let's put developer, actually year. Love year to be first, platform to be second. Let's see how much space we got after that. Enough for something, the third one, and I would probably want developer in there. Okay, let's remove play mode. Maybe that could be a third thing. So we're going to place these guys under it. Maybe it's in its own stack panel. It sounds really cool to have like a game room. Be cool if there's like a person willing to put together some plugin or program that could showcase all of the trophies and stuff. I mean, because we already have different achievements from different places that you can find. The majority, let's say, is the MAME leaderboards and the retro achievements. Okay, and you'll notice a couple things here once I come back in here. First is that I definitely left something not complete. Let's just go through all the normal stuff here. Stack panel, cover flow image, stack panel, stack panel. All right, let's take a look at the error message. The error message is saying that the border start tag on line 85, position 30, does not match the end tag of the stack panel line in 135. Did I delete something? Or did I add an extra stack panel? Stack panel. I did. Huh. All right, this should basically be not here. Okay. Oh, look at that. I definitely did something there. Okay, so stack panel, we've got the cover flow image. This is going to be vertical. No, wait. This one's going to be horizontal. Then we've got another stack panel, which is the one that we're missing. Okay, I see what happened. Let's separate these. Stack panel 1, stack panel 2. Stack panel 3. Horizontal, vertical, vertical. And now we're good. You sold your Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix mat. Oh, the last mat that I had. And why is that doing that? I see why that's doing that. Okay, that's what I was going to do. Right. Stack panel needs to be around these two stack panels with a basically this stuff. Were you using that a lot? The Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix mat? I still have a mat from the Xbox days. I can't remember where. I got it somewhere in a box. If I ever wanted to dance around again. Right, horizontal. Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. So we got a stack panel, which is stacking our two stack panels vertically, and these two stack panels are this is the title, right? Yeah. So there we go. These two stack panels are horizontal. It should look like the way that I want. Okay, perfect. So the only thing that we've got here that you will notice is that all of the bindings are no spaces between them. So that's a problem, but a problem we can fix. 2013 Nintendo. The second one says Nintendo, and it's not able to provide me with a star rating on any of these games. I see. A lot of these games don't have star rating. You know, just for simplicity's sake, let's get rid of that. We're really only trying to figure out showcase that all of this is possible. Now we can actually do this in a much easier way, can't we? There's a number of ways I could accomplish this. What way should I do for you guys? Let's do... Oh, did you have those drums from the Donkey Kong Jungle Beat? I had a friend that had those drums, but I never actually had them. But you're right. I mean, the game was created for the Donkey Kong Jungle Beat game. The drums were created for it, so... Okay, so the easiest way that I can think of to do all of this is to create one text block with all of these properties. Yeah, and then say something like this. And then do a multi-binding maybe. And if I remember correctly, I don't know if I need that. I would basically say 0, 1, or I can do maybe this 1 and 2, and then inside of this, I could be wrong. This might completely fail out. But we'll find out. What do we think? Am I about to break it? Yes. Yes, I am. Okay. I see what's going on. This is probably not a great way to do what I want. And so I'll do it in a different way. That probably makes more sense. And Mr. Retrolos, who are you talking to? What's the time at your places? And Visual Circus saying thanks for the effort as a premium user that doesn't have the time to do it as intended. Are you wanting anything specific, Visual Circus? Theme-wise? That you'd like to see? Has anybody looked at the theme that they're using and said, I wish you could just do this. I wish this was in my theme. And Belgium, it sounds like that it's pretty late there, isn't it? Late in the evening. Oh, you work in the event sector, so maybe not late for you then. 21:43 in Holland. So basically, that sounds like the similar time, both of you guys. I want to open the Pandora's box. There must be. Everybody must look at a theme that they love and say, I wish I could make, like, why, like, how do we make this? Like, this looks broken, or I'd rather have this feature to it. You feel guilty drinking beer. Well, you know what? It's always going to be different times around the world. It's always going to be morning in some place when it's nighttime for you. It's just the way it is. Okay, so here's a much easier way to accomplish what I was really trying to do. You create a text box with all of the styling that you want, and then you make it look like that. And then inside of that, you create other text blocks. Oh, I wonder if I can do just that. Where you create the text that you want to see. Right? Something like this. But everything's wrapped in a text block that tells me what the styling should be. And then in between all of these, I'll do a text that should just be this as my separator. Let's see what I got. Where is it? I crashed it. That's what I did. I'd be curious to know, Retro808, what theme did you look at, or which themes did you look at and play around with first? And Condorito, how you doing? It's 4:44 p.m. there. It's only 1 hour ahead of me. You're seriously thinking of opening one yourself. And you want to open up a game bar with a bunch of machines running big box. I don't know. I don't know if that's illegal. You would definitely have to find that out depending on where you live. Okay, look at that. It worked. Separators have now been placed in between the items. And of course, we'll do the same thing down at the bottom here. So I'll just make a copy and I'll paste it in this. And what we'll do is we will just change the item that's inside of here. Publisher and play mode. Look at that. So now I should see separation here. Right? And so all this really proves is that it's possible to add lots of things that you want inside of a particular, inside of this particular cover flow. And Visual Circus, keep up the good work. Much appreciated. Thank you very much. You're negotiating with some arcade bars already. That's pretty awesome. You should let us know if that happens. Love to see videos or pictures if there's any events like that. Okay, so let's take a look at what we got here. So we have the year, the platform, the developer, the publisher, and the play mode all just sitting there. Inside of the wheel. That's pretty cool. And hey, why not add one more thing to the bunch just because we can? Let's add the badge, which I believe I have here. Look at that, it's right here. But this one, what should we do with this guy? Let's put inside next to this. Stack panel. So next to the title, we're going to put this cover flow badge of a favorite right here. And I'm going to remove the canvas because we're not in a canvas. But I'm going to put a margin of, let's say, 20. Oops. Let's see if that worked. So this will use the badges that you have installed in your LaunchBox and display them if there's a favorite. I mean, let's just go to my favorites and make them extremely large, like that. Maybe 10. And something else is that's bugging me is needing a view box. I think I will like that a bit better than what's going on right now. That didn't quite go as expected. Let's align this stuff to the center, to the left, and let's see what we end up with. Well, it's centered. Now I can play around with the size. Look at that. Got a nice heart that's taking it from my badges folder and placing it next to the items that I have favorited, like Tetris. And Retro, you're saying the first one that you added was Unified Redux, but you used a bunch of my themes to dissect and learn. Oh, that's good to know, to learn what things do. And you know what? I did exactly the same thing. I just took the default theme and I was trying to dissect everything, learn everything that I could. And now we're here. Now we're both here. Oh man, Genesis or SNES? And this is to everybody. What a question. Well, I have it on good authority that the Genesis definitely does some stuff that Nintendo don't. Sorry, I had to say that. But seriously, like, so of course when this stuff was happening, the Genesis and the Super Nintendo, like I was a kid, and so that was the big question. That was like the question on the playground, like which one do you have? And when you went to friend's house, maybe they had the ones that that you didn't have. I had the Super Nintendo first. That was sure, and I was a big Zelda fan, Mario fan. And but yeah, the Genesis was appealing. My friends had the Genesis, appealing enough that I ended up buying one. So I ended up with both, playing Sonic. For some reason, I had Aladdin for both Super Nintendo and Genesis, and I played both of them a lot. So as a kid, it was like the Nintendo is sort of what we wanted first, and we got a lot of fun out of that. And then the Genesis was that like alluring system, just because of the marketing and seeing friends have it. And Mortal Kombat 2, when people talk about, see, it's funny when you weren't part of that time period and you're watching, let's say, videos retrospect to that period, and they say something like, well, they always bring up the Genesis, and then they always bring up like Mortal Kombat. That was the thing, Mortal Kombat and its blood, which didn't actually have blood. It was a code that you had to unlock, which I think made it even more appealing to us kids. The fact that we were like secretly unlocking this violence mode. and I like have memories sitting at a friend's house with like a bunch of us typing in the code into Mortal Kombat. Like, it was a thing. It was like 100% a thing that we did when we were kids, and it made a difference. Even though it, like, now it must seem silly that it would actually make a difference. And to be honest, yeah, so what is it? Like, yeah. If I'm looking now at the two catalogs, it would be it would probably be the Super Nintendo for me. Has the games that I would most want to return to and play. Whereas the Genesis does have games that I want to return to and play, but not as many. And what's funny is that even the Nintendo 64, which apparently has a really bad rap because it's one of the first streamlined 3D, all 3D, blocky. It did not age well, but I had so much fun with the Nintendo 64 growing up. Obviously, and if you watch things where the GoldenEye was a big deal, right? If you weren't part of that whole GoldenEye experience, and you, let's say, watched videos or read up on it, and you're like, well, how much of a thing was it? Because if you actually play it now, of course, it doesn't hold up that well with the controls. It was a thing. It was me and a bunch of buddies playing it every single day all summer long, like during our break from school. It was that thing. It was like so popular. Everyone had it. I was completely part of that experience. Mr. Retros, you had GoldenEye, 4 different colored gamepads, and 4 drunken friends weekly. Yeah, right? It was completely a thing. Like, looking back on it now is kind of... It's not a thing anymore, right? 1080 Avalanche, that was also a thing. And Visual Circus, you had 1 to 5 games to play. Had friends over playing Sensible Soccer on Amiga. Yeah, and that time period as well, like the 80s when we got our Nintendo. We only had maybe like 3 games. Like, that was normal. And then you would rent games from the video store. And then I remember vividly, like I had a cousin where he was fortunate enough, he was much older than I was. So when he was growing up, he got a ton of games, like a ton of games, meaning like 6 or 7 Nintendo games during the prime of the Nintendo. And then he was old, he was probably in college or something, and he decided to hand them off to us as like me and my brother and my sister. And we were just kids at the time, and like as a kid, getting 6 new games for the Nintendo was like one of those moments that you just never forget. Like, imagine you got like stack of, and you had 3 games before that. You're like Mario that came with the system, like a couple other games. And so all the games that he gave us, which was like Arkanoid, we got Arkanoid from him, we got Bump and Jump, all these sort of old arcade games that were ported to the Nintendo. I just remember playing them to death. So I've got huge nostalgia for games like that, like games that nobody else probably played that much of. City Connection. Loved City Connection. Like, here's Bump and Jump. Just that song. Which you guys can't hear, can you? Because I turned off the desktop audio. I play this game for hours and hours. And so it holds a lot of nostalgia, this like tiny little bump and jump game. And Ernesto, when you were a kid, your mom thought it was too violent for me. Yeah, there was that whole thing too. The whole violence aspect and 8-bit music is something special. That's why I tend to lean towards that when I'm listening to music or trying to find new music. Let's see what GameCube looks like. Ooh. But yeah, other than that, I don't have much. There's one more thing that I want to do. So this just proves that you can create, like, this is technically a wall view, but at the same time, I'm not using it as a wall view. So I don't like calling it wall, like a wall view, right? This is the new flow control that you can take and put something completely different inside of it. In fact, that's how I accomplished the new banner box. So if you want to see other things that you can do, download the new banner box 2.0 and then check to see how it's coded, laid out inside of it. And you'll see that I added static images, I added the box and clear logos, and I gave it the effect of using those banner box banners without using those banner box banners. And so there's pros and cons to all of that. And the last thing I want to do, actually a couple things I want to do, sort of theme related. So let's say you decided to tackle this and you decided to publish a theme with the community theme creator, but then you wanted, and then you made your edits like I did, and now you have your view and it looks great. You got it the way that you want, and then you realized, oh crap, you wanted to change something with, let's say, something on this area, this right hand side area. And you're like, okay, well, how would I do that? Well, you could jump back in to this and make your changes. Right? So let's say I decided I wanted to have, I wanted to have an image that was the community star rating. And I wanted that image to be let's say community or user rating. Let's go down to here. We're going to grab something from some other theme. Let's say themes, cover box. And I'm sorry, think about it, Retro 808. I'm sorry if you had to learn off of some of my old crappy code. I was looking through some of it a while ago and thinking, why did I code things like that? I didn't know better. Okay, so there's white. So let's say I wanted to put this here. As an example. Oh, of course. I have it all in a stack panel, so what am I doing? Let's put it inside of here. Let's make it the width to be auto-sized. Actually, this one's going to be 50, whereas the text scroller is going to be maybe just 10. And then we're going to do the right-hand side, and then we're going to make this something a little darker. There we go. We'll make this a bit smaller. You know, so let's say you're making changes like this, and you're wanting to have this published. Well, remember, if I publish this, I'm going to overwrite all the changes I just made with the wheel. So the best way to do this is to go into your theme. And hey, Mr. Retroless, thanks for stopping by. And yeah, we'll see you again in another week. Visual, sorry. You approve of you approve, I guess, of the game that's on here. Yes. Asterisks and the power of the gods. Which, I mean, was a thing here in Canada. But, yeah, I guess it's got its French heritage. So what I would do is that I would go and I would make a copy of this new theme. You don't have to make a copy, by the way. You could just take that code out. So maybe that's what I should show you. Let's say you would go into here and instead of making a copy, let's do this. You would go into the theme. Actually, here, I got it up right here. And I would say, okay, I've got everything inside of wheel. Or you can say everything inside of, actually, no, you're going to have to say everything inside of the cover flow control. Oh, I don't actually need this stuff anymore, do I? Everything inside of this cover flow control, which is what's going to be missing, paste it in a text file. Remember, don't lose your stuff. Okay? Oh, I don't need to save that. And then now publish. If Big Box wasn't open. That's what happens. Gonna need to get out of that and wait for this to free up. Free up on my computer. Once Windows realizes I don't need access to this or stop locking access to this item. And your Belgian dude lived there. Ah. That's crazy. No, it wants to lock it, so just for time's sake. Oh, where's the rename? New theme 2. Then we would go, oh, that's why. Then we would go into the new theme, into our wheel games view. Yep, we're gonna find the wheel, which I believe I said was at the top. Okay, so here it is, which is basically just this. And now we're just going to replace that cover flow control with our cover flow control. And we're back in business. So this is what I have to do every time somebody requests to make a change in something like the POC or in Big Box right now. Since this is sort of like a hybrid community theme creator project and a hybrid just custom code. And then the last thing that I want to say is that for all you people that have stuck around, there is a LaunchBox update coming in the next few weeks. Let's say in 2 or 3 weeks or something like that, let's say. And it's going to be focused, because of the results of what we got back, it's going to be focused on a lot of performance with the program. And it's going to be the start of that, let's say. We're going to do a few things here and there to try to work on performance. One of them's out in the beta right now. So if you're out on beta 2, you'll notice that loading LaunchBox or Big Box is now faster. Depending on your layout, it's about 50% faster, something like that. Depending on your data files, I should say. Some more stuff is coming to hopefully at least LaunchBox. Trying to sneak in one for Big Box. Some changes that'll help out. But yeah. The second thing will be if we can, we're trying to test this right now, and you can see in my theme here, there's kind of two things. The first one is essentially the scrolling, right? So imagine you're sitting here and you're scrolling. Well, right now I'm actually on a build that has some code that's going to help with that. So you can see if I just scroll pretty fast, it's looking pretty sweet. Goal was to make it really smooth. So I hope you guys enjoy this. You can see here if I've enabled, I don't know if this is going to come in, but I've enabled the scroll bar that you can scroll, and you can see that even that is really nice. Imagine like the Nintendo system has almost 800 games. And we're doing something that no other front end really does, which is basically we're dynamically scaling the box art to a specific size, which basically means the box art doesn't have a size until it gets built and then dynamically fixes itself. Instead of a lot of other ones will have a static height and width, and then we'll just try to fill that space up, which actually performs much better. You already know what the height and width would be. So we're trying to strike a balance, and I think we've done that, so look forward to that. And LaunchBox works great with Logitech F710 controllers. That's good to hear. Yeah, the controller logic, I would say is pretty good as long as your controller works with Windows and either X input, D input, I think pretty much works. I've got some D input controllers that work pretty good. But you're saying LaunchBox doesn't work well with multiple Xbox controllers on Bluetooth unless you buy the 4-player USB from Microsoft. Is there another thing that you can buy other than the thing from Microsoft, the little dongle? Or does the controller actually work on Bluetooth? You'd have to see how. I didn't realize that the Xbox controller works over Bluetooth. Although I haven't had an Xbox controller since it's been a long time. The Xbox 360 controller I have. But all those controllers have problems just in Windows in general. I'm not talking about the Xbox, but like the PlayStation, the Nintendo Pro controllers, they all have just general Windows issues going through Bluetooth that you have to then get third-party software or third-party hardware to make work. There you go. The Xbox One controller, all of them, I'm assuming, and up might work over Bluetooth, and that's, yeah, I don't know. The problem with Bluetooth, though, is that it's not the most robust technology. And so you'll just controller input in general go over Bluetooth is not great, especially if you're going to use the same Bluetooth adapter for lots of stuff. Like right now I'm using a Bluetooth adapter for my headset. Okay, so that's going to use some of the bandwidth of my Bluetooth adapter. And then let's say I then pair a controller over the same Bluetooth adapter Okay, that's now, it's got to have the bandwidth for music and one controller. And then if I pair a second controller and a third controller, it's like at some point, that Bluetooth technology is not going to like it. It just does not have the bandwidth available to support all of these things you're throwing at it. And that's could be partially of what you're seeing. Like you would have to buy multiple Bluetooth adapters and then spread out the load over those. Or like you were saying, buy the adapter from Microsoft specifically designed to support the bandwidth of just controllers. Anyway, in saying that, wow, it's already past 4. We basically created an interesting game view that uses our new flow control wheel. And I will get it out to you guys on the forums. I'll just call it something. And then you guys can play around with it. The goal is to have all of that functionality built into the theme creator when we can get Dave to get around with it. That was your gripe. Yeah, your gripe is just with technology. It sounds like. It's like, oh, technology. This is how technology works, unfortunately. Every single technology, whether Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, anything wireless, is gonna have some issues. And that's why you got experts to to bring us through some of it. There you go. Some things like Cuphead work with multiple controllers. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. And yeah, it might be something with the way that, if it is, for example, something with the way that these emulators or Big Box is utilizing the controller. Because Big Box won't actually utilize multiple controllers, right? You can say either all controllers or no controllers. If you're talking about emulators, I'm not sure about those. But what you would want is, if it's just a configuration issue, you can just use some software. There's many software out there that will remap your controllers to something that works better for particular, for the overall feel of it. For example, there's one that I use. What is it called? Xbox. Yeah, X360 CE. This is a great program because it will take all of your controllers, and no matter what, as long as Windows registers the button presses, you can then take those button presses and map it to, let's say, controller 1. Say this piece of hardware, this controller, map to controller 1, and then use these controllers, and then go to controller 2 and say, I want this second controller to be mapped to player 2, and then map it out. So it does the mapping for you ahead of time, and then it can be used for any kind of software that you throw at it. There are programs like Steam has a built-in mapper in their program. So if you go into Steam and you're playing a game, Steam will then take control of your controllers, and you can remap them in Steam for whatever you're launching. So some people do that, is they just launch everything through Steam to handle these. Like, it's basically got a built-in version of like that program. Not quite, but essentially it's doing the same thing. And then there might be some games that will also do that. They will build in a program like this X360 CE to give you guys that sort of foundation of it working. But yeah, there's so many controllers out there, and if it's not really great, you kind of have to see what you can do about making it sort of work generally. But who knows? Who knows what the problem is with Bluetooth and all that stuff. Yes, it's RetroArch. RetroArch is just getting confused. Yeah, who knows how they do it? They do it with some configurations that they built in. But I'm not sure if it's based on controller IDs or like any sort of hardware. Not really sure. Anyway, lots of cool stuff to do. I started building this this LaunchBox theme, and maybe at some point in the future we can go over a LaunchBox theme and how you would build that. But until then, hopefully everybody, you have a great weekend. And we'll see you guys next week for another great week and hopefully another great theme and more questions. Bring on the questions. Till then, thank you for watching, guys. We'll see you guys next week. Take care, everyone.